Another day, another podcast about Alabama football recruiting, including a quarterback for the 2025 class.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back into Locked On Bama. Luke Robinson, that's me. Jimmy Stein, that's him. Jimmy, Alabama still buzzing from the previous weekend on recruiting, and also beginning to talk a little bit about this upcoming weekend, which is going to be a big one.
Yeah, still dealing with, the after effects of what was a really big weekend. I mean, in terms of, there's only 55 official visits you give out. It's not 100% accurate, but it's fair for you, the fan, to assume that any kid that is on an official visit at Alabama is a take. That's largely true. There still is a pecking order to some degree at some spots, but since you only have 55 official visits, that you give out, you're trying to sign around 25, which is another issue to talk about here shortly. But if they visited, we probably want them. So every kid, we have 7 kids in this weekend. I think the only one that's just a real long shot of who is here is DeMello Jones, cornerback from Florida. I think we have other kids ahead of him on the board. I don't think we're his number one choice either. But we like him enough to look under the hood. He likes us enough to take a long look. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think, to me, the big news is a guy like Daniel Calhoun, the big offensive lineman from Georgia. This is not a good cycle for offensive linemen. I've talked about that before. It's not a great year in the state of Alabama. It's not a great year around the South. It's not a great year nationally. This is just one of those things. It happens all the time at one position or another, to where there's just fewer elite kids at one spot. And offensive line, to me, is that spot this year. So Daniel Calhoun is an elite blue chipper prospect. It would be huge to land a kid from Georgia that Georgia badly wants at a position that's not very fruitful this season. It's not like, well, if we miss Calhoun, we can just make up for it. It's not that way at all. I mean, Calhoun's even more valuable than he would normally be. And the great news, as we reported BOL, is that Calhoun's already visited Georgia. Alabama was his second visit, and he's come out of the Alabama visit favoring Alabama. That's huge. Now, does that mean we can go ahead and write him down? Of course not. He's still going to Texas and Tennessee and other places. So it's not close to being able to write it down. But you got to figure Georgia's the biggest competition there. And the fact that he's visited Georgia and visited Alabama and seems to favor Alabama the most is huge. He says he's been here 12 times, like holy Peter Woods, who set the record for most visits to Alabama without signing with Alabama. So maybe Peter's a terrible name to bring up for this subject, but Daniel Calhoun's been here 12 times. I came out of this weekend, Luke, more excited about Calhoun. I think he's very possible on our commitment list. Amari Jefferson, who somehow got Nick Saban to dab with him in the photo in his office. That shows you how much Nick Saban likes this kid, because that's not a normal thing. And Isaiah Fega from Central Phoenix City, I think there's a good chance he ends up in the Alabama class too. And that's just from this past weekend, but we'll have to see.
I'm going to have to look up that photo of Nick Saban dabbing. I'm not sure I want to see it. It's a lot like
it's on Amari Jefferson's Twitter account. It's 50% amusing and 50% disturbing.
Terrifying. We were talking about a bear coming out of the ocean in Destin the other day. I'm trying to really, if anybody's watching this and they're like, Luke, why are you always looking to what would be the right, I don't know. I'm trying to make it where my eyes are centered. I can't do this. I'm trying to, I don't know. I feel like I'm always giving anybody the side eye. But anyway, we had a bear coming out of the ocean. And then again, and I don't know if this video is real or not, but there was a video on the Twitterverse about a shark attack, and like they attacked this guy, and it's like a homemade video, and it looks like a scene from Jaws. It's so terrifying.
Yeah.
Nick Saban dabbing wouldn't be that bad.
It looks what I would expect a shark, a fatal shark attack to look like. That's what it looked like to me. Like, wow, if that's fake, kudos, because that's
That was
probably
downtown
what that
fake.
exactly is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If that was a fake, that's Elaine Bennis level fakeness right there. If anybody knows what I'm talking about from Seinfeld. Amari
Fake,
Jefferson. Fake. Amari Jefferson is an intriguing name because, you know, you could make a living just on wide receivers in this state alone this year, to me.
Yeah.
And so Amari Jefferson, of course, the other kid in Texas that we're battling Texas for, we've already got Rico Scott. It's just wild because I love the in-state crop of wide receivers, yet it feels like we're you know, typical Nick Saban fashion, we're stretching out the net.
Well, we have Perry Thompson already committed. I think there's going to ultimately be three wide receivers in this class, and there's already 2 committed. Now, is Perry Thompson going to stay committed? I think so, but if you're out there and you're nervous or you want to bet against it, fine, I get that. He will make you nervous with the multitude of visits he goes on, particularly to Auburn. But Perry Thompson, that's one. Rico Scott just seems locked in. I mean, I don't think Rico's considering anywhere else. And by the way, his official visit was this past weekend too. And he's been to Alabama a few times. Again, Alabama offered him based off his performance in camp last summer. He seems just locked in. So you're taking 1 or 2 more, right? The frustrating one, and it is just frustrating, is Cam Coleman. That's frustrating. Kids from Central Phoenix City is one of the top wide receivers in the United States. Alabama likes him, of course. Alabama likes him. They're not going to buy a house across the street and blast, and do, the Peter Gabriel song on a boombox 24/7 for a year, hoping he changes his mind. But Cam, he'll say nice things publicly about Alabama, but the actions don't really line up with it. And by that, I mean, he's got to come to Tuscaloosa at some point if he's serious about Alabama, and he is not, even though he has plenty of opportunity to do so. He's just one of these in-state kids that's just not feeling Alabama now. As to why, I don't know. We can guess forever. I think it's fair if you point to, well, he plays for Patrick Nix. He plays for Bo Nix's dad. There's probably not a lot of Alabama love coming out there. True, but Isaiah Fega really likes Alabama, and he plays on the same team. So I'm not sure that's 100% the answer. It could be a factor. I just think, the kid just seems to like other programs and other schools more, and so be it. But that part's frustrating because he is a 5-star and seems to be like, was such a good fit in a program that's produced Devontae Smith and Jerry Jeudy and Henry Ruggs and Jalen Waddle and even J-Mo and Metch. So it would seem like it would fit, but the kid just doesn't seem to want to get in a car that delivers him to Tuscaloosa to look around.
You know what maybe we should do? We should tempt him with some Bird Dogs merchandise, because Bird Dogs, they make you look good. And he plays well, so he can also look good. Bird Dogs stretch khaki shorts are designed to fit slimmer through the thigh and leg, giving him that truly sculpted look. And I don't think Cam Coleman needs that. But you know what? It can make the rest of us look like Cam Coleman. Bird Dog shorts do the exact same thing as Lululemon, but they fit way better and they're less expensive too. Bird Dogs fix this issue because the issue of a stiff, like restricting khaki, by inventing cloud knit fabric that looks like khaki but stretches to get you a way slimmer fit without having to sacrifice movement. And if you know me, I'm kind of a spaz. I'm always moving around, so I need all the movement I can get my hands on, whatever the heck that means. Bird Dogs uses anti-stink sweat wicking fabric that keeps you cool and dry all day. And if you know Jimmy, he needs anti-stink sweat wicking fabric. So both of us have really enjoyed the merchandise they sent us. We had somebody on one of the comments say, hey, you guys hooked me. I ordered some Bird Dog stuff, man. Kudos. Love it. Go buy some more. Appreciate you so much. And Bird Dogs, go check them out. Bird Dogs / Locked On College, birddogs.com / Locked On College. Go there, use promo code Locked On College, and you'll get a free Yeti style tumbler. I use this tumbler all the time. I never was a tumbler guy. Now I love this tumbler. So go check out birddogs.com / Locked On College. You will not regret it. Jimmy, on the next podcast, maybe we will have an answer from Grant Nelson, the much ballyhooed transfer portal basketball recruit. We really want him. I'm really ready for him to go and make a commitment. He is certainly hurting my feelings over here right now, but hopefully he will commit to the University of Alabama sooner rather than later. And we will talk about that on the next podcast, hopefully, if he's committed. If not, we'll just talk more about your countdown. But for right now, a quarterback I want to talk about is Deuce Knight from Lucedale, Mississippi, very close to the state of Alabama. This guy is sort of burst on the scene. I'm going to give the Auburn one of the Auburn sites, I think it was 24/7 site, give them a little credit. That's where I first learned about this kid because I knew Auburn was recruiting him. But now it feels like his recruiting has really picked up. He's a 2025 kid, and he seems to be a heck of a player. And Alabama's giving him a serious look.
Yeah, they really are. I'm really looking forward to this afternoon on BOL. I'm going to watch a subtle film and break it down because this is the weekend I think that I would say Deuce Knight moved from someone Alabama liked to someone Alabama loves, and Deuce Knight loves Alabama. The interesting thing is he's in the 25 quarterback group, and as we know, we are already heavily involved with KJ Lacey, who's committed to Texas, George McIntyre from Nashville, and Antoine Hill from Georgia. Those are three kids Alabama already loved prior to Deuce Knight, and now Deuce Knight's being added to that big happy family. Deuce is just a great physical prospect. And again, I'm going to break down the tape later on today on BOL. To me, the interesting question is before I ever watch the tape, I just know him by reputation, which is huge. My question is going to be, where does he fit in the pecking order? Is he a kid that could commit? I mean, George McIntyre can probably commit. We know KJ Lacey could commit to Alabama. George McIntyre could commit to Alabama. I think Antoine Hill is sort of a maybe. It'll be interesting to see if Deuce is just a take. Because as you know, a quarterback, once you have your take, that's it. You're done at that position for that class. So super interesting from what I hear, in addition to being a fantastic, a kid born with fantastic quarterback skill set, he's also one of these off the field great super kids with the intangibles and everything else. Now, I know he's from Mississippi. That raises some blood pressure for some people. This type of Mississippi is a little different, though. Lucedale really should be annexed by Mobile. It's Mobile's backyard. Lucedale borders Mobile County in George County, Mississippi, which is obviously Mississippi coastal county. It's kind of up in the country a little bit. Lucedale, such a big part of Mobile. The family, the Luces, that the town's named after, most of those people, they live in Mobile. And some of them even have a big house in Point Clear. So Lucedale is very much Alabama. I would say it doesn't have the same sphere of influence at Lucedale that you get from like an Ole Miss or Mississippi State. I would say if you polled the residents of Lucedale, you're probably going to have more Alabama fans than anything else. So we have a real good shot there with Deuce Knight, and I look forward to breaking down the film later today on BOL. And I'll report back on the next Locked On Bama show too. Luke's so excited he's muted. Luke's been muted.
Yeah, I'm muted.
And it looked like
you can tell I felt like I had a good.
What you were saying looked very interesting too. So hopefully you remember what you said.
What I was gonna say was, before I muted myself, you made it sound like Kay Ivey is mulling over the idea of Alabama taking over Lucedale. Like, we're not declaring war on Mississippi, but we want Lucedale. We just want that.
I just remember literally, it's funny, I know through Deuce Knight years ago, but the last time I was driving through Mobile County and ended up in, I was going to Lucedale, actually, it was some lawyer work thing. And it said, leaving Mobile County, leaving Alabama, and then Lucedale city limits. And I'm like, like sometimes you say, I'm here.
Yeah.
I remember saying, I'm here with a question mark. Like, I'm here? Like, Lucedale might as well be Saraland.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and take another break. When we come back, it's time for Keanu Koht. That's how you say it on Jimmy Stein's Countdown. And we're back. And I have to give those pauses so that when I put the ad locators in for the audio part, I kind of know where to look. I can look in the spacing and see a big space. But then, of course, when I mute myself, what screws up is there's that big space, and I get screwed up. And it only costs me about 2.5 seconds, literally. but it makes me mad every time. And so I'm going to do that again today and not screwed
More
up
proof
again.
the mutes are not on purpose, because it literally makes your day a little harder.
2.5 seconds are stolen away from my day when I do this to myself. So y'all understand, Luke is not doing this for a bit.
We're old. We don't have many seconds left.
I got to cherish every one of them. Anyway, Keanu Koht is now on the countdown. This is a guy that was he. I know a lot of people thought he was going to LSU. Did we flip him from LSU? I can't remember.
I think he. I don't think he was my recollection is he wasn't a flip. My recollection was it was an upset, like Alabama upset LSU.
Okay.
That he was that all along everyone thought LSU, and then it was Alabama. So
I think that's right.
On 3, I think I had Keanu a 5-star, and other services did not. On 3, super high on Keanu Koht.
He's pretty lanky to be a 5-star, though, right? I mean, he's not like. I mean, I'm not saying he's not a physical specimen. If you're on the Alabama football team and you're a punter, you're a physical specimen. But maybe not.
Yeah, I would say when he committed to Alabama, it's probably 6'4", 215, which is not imposing outside linebacker at all when he committed. But the good news is, and it's a big part of discussing Keanu, is the weight gain has been fantastic. This is now moving into his redshirt sophomore year, so it's time. It's time for him. And boom, now he's 6'4", 232. Frankly, it looks a little bigger than that, in his pads. I mean, this kid fills it out pretty good. He is a specimen or darn near close to it now. Also had some injury issues during his redshirt freshman season, so we haven't seen much of him. But he's probably ready. And I think if you watched A-Day closely, you saw a kid that is ready. I think if Keanu was a guy that we had to play every week, he would do well, in particular on third down as a pass rusher. I think he could help us this season. The deal is with him and so many others, and I know it sounds like a broken record, but we're right at that point in the countdown where we've reached a clump of these kids who are good players. Jeremiah Alexander, the kid we're going to talk about tomorrow on the countdown. We'll preview Devontae Smith. That's another one. Keanu Koht. These guys that are good players, Antonio Kite, good players, there's just not room for them to play just yet because they're just right behind the starters who are so good, you don't take them off the field. So Keanu is promising. He's a good player. He's probably ready to play, but he's got Dallas Turner, Chris Braswell, and probably Quandarius Robinson ahead of him. Those are the guys that are better than he is today, and he's unlikely to move ahead of them. Is he the fourth guy? Probably. But now let's see where Keon Keeley lands after he's at practice for a few weeks, because Keon is a guy that has immense 5-star plus talent. He's the type of guy who can show up and jump ahead of upperclassmen. So with Keanu, hey, there's no reason not to be excited about him and his future and how good he is. It's just a matter of waiting for his opportunity, and hopefully he doesn't run out of patience. He would be a good example of someone that could run out of patience and leave, and he would be one the coaches would not be happy about that at all. They want him to stay and continue to develop because he's a good player. He's just not quite Dallas and Braswell or Q yet, but he's getting there.
That's what I was going to say was, do you feel like if it doesn't work out this particular season, do you feel like he's a transfer candidate?
Well, almost all of them are. I mean, they're almost all that way. To me, Luke, it's almost like, I mean, I hate being this cynical about it, but you almost feel like there's 3 labels on players right now. Starter, freshmen who just got there, and everyone else is waiting to transfer. I mean, that's what it sort of feels like. And that's the unfortunate part of the portal, because it's a developmental sport. And Keanu, even though he was a highly touted guy with enormous upside, he's a guy who needed to develop before he was ready to be an every down SEC football player. And it almost feels like if he does leave, we spent 3 hard-earned years developing him for the benefit of wherever he goes, and that's part of the transfer portal sucking, really, because it's not good for the kids and it's not good for these programs that literally invest a lot of money in developing these kids. And then when they're ready to play, they take off. But neither here nor there. He's a good kid. He's a good player. I think if you see him this fall, you will probably be impressed. I just don't know that there's going to be opportunity for him. We don't liberally substitute at that position. And again, it's no slight on the kid that he's not ready to leapfrog Dallas Turner, Chris Braswell, or even Q Robinson, who I think starting about last fall has looked pretty fantastic.
There's got to be something on this transfer portal thing where, because you brought up a point that I think people always forget, that Alabama this kid can come to Alabama, and again, we wanted him and he wanted to be here, so it worked out. It's mutually beneficial. But he comes here and Alabama develops him for 3 years, and then he can get in the portal, see what's available to him. Somebody can even get a good NIL deal. And then Alabama spent all this time developing him, and then he goes to Michigan State and, is a superstar. Maybe, and I know Alabama's benefited the other way, so I'm not trying to sell that, it's only bad for Alabama, because we certainly have used it to our advantage. But I wonder if there's a way that you can say, okay, here's the deal. If you get somebody from the transfer portal, you either lose, it's like everybody you take from the transfer portal costs you 2 scholarships. Or maybe when you take somebody from the portal, it costs you 2 scholarships, and the place the guy came from gets one of those scholarships. That may discourage some of the, I don't know. I mean, I'm throwing stuff against the wall, and that's probably horrible stuff. But I think there's got to be a way to fix this thing. But Jimmy, we'll talk about that more later on. Wait, did you have something to say?
No, I was just going to say, the kid, everyone that has their opinions about transfer portal that's pro, they talk about how it's good for the kids, and some of it is, a lot of it is. No one talks about what's good or bad for the programs, and it is sort of a negative, right? I mean, that you spend all your scholarship money and food and board and the training and the coaches to spend time with them, and then you get them ready to play, and now they are playing at TCU instead of the place that invested in them. That's just it's a double-edged sword. Look for every good thing about the portal, there's a bad thing, right? And hey, the portal's worked out for Alabama in so many instances of Alabama bringing in a good player. Done so again in this class with the CJ Duprees and such that will play a significant role. I think Trez Marshall will too. And then you lose. I think Alabama lost between 15 and 20 to the portal, and about 10 or 12 of those guys, they were probably never going to play, and it wasn't that big a deal. But a handful of them that left were guys that the staff would rather have not seen them leave. I don't know if anybody got begged to stay. I doubt that's the case, but there were certainly 3 or 4 that they wouldn't have wanted to just walk out the door, and they did.
All right, that's going to do it for today's pod. Hopefully tomorrow we'll be talking about Grant Nelson and his addition to Alabama. If he does commit tonight, we might do a Locked On Now and talk about the impact of this. Until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll tide.